Hey, folks. Tonight, we have some special treats. So, shoot. When I had Russ on, you couldn't see all this mess. So we're this close to being done with the new studio. So it's going to be in the corner, which is cleared out and mopped and cleaned. The walls were mopped and everything's ready. The space is ready, but I didn't have time to move all of this confidently without maybe having to do this on my wife's horrible laptop. So anyway, when Russ is back, you won't see all the junk. And maybe, do we have Bingo out tonight? Nope, Bingo's hiding. She's mad at me. So we ran out of strawberries and she's mad. But tonight we are talking with Russ Wilson from Aquarimax about garter snakes. We've had garter snakes on the show before, but it was kind of like they were in the background for entertainment. They weren't really here. We didn't really talk about them. We touched on some stuff. I have some very specific questions that we're kind of going to ask every guest, or like a layout outline. So we're going to get kind of organized again. Okay. So that I make sure, sometimes I feel like I don't get you guys enough information, but we're going to focus more on that and still have fun. But we're going to focus on getting some stuff covered without having to be a problem. And I'm going to try to read it without my glasses. So that'll be fun too. And my handwriting's pretty awful. So we'll see. But let me bring Russ on. So far we have what? Frank and Sandy? We're at normal time tonight. Let's see who else joins us. And I'm hitting end stream instead of Frank and Russ.
That was a close one.
It's over already. So you said you had to go early. So Mrs. Russ has bingo tonight. So they're going to, bingo. That's a different bingo. This is the one you yell and win. What do you win? Those clown dolls? Those hand-sewn creepy clown dolls from when we were kids?
I don't know. Those were super creepy, though.
They were awful. They were, especially if you've seen Poltergeists?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, one of those like came to life and the arm stretched out and tried to choke out the one kid. And then like that year, my mom got my sister one and we hated that thing. We hit it all the time. It was bad. It was bad. Yeah. Anyway, you're already juggling a snake. So let's see that guy.
Okay. Let's do it.
This is our first one, guys. This is like a super black.
This is.
What do we call this guy? He's highly melanistic.
Yep, he's a melanistic eastern garter, Thamnophis sertalis, also called the common garter, but of course, most of them are not melanistic.
Can we see right behind your ring? His belly is exposed there.
Yeah.
You see that dark blue, or that iridescent blue? Just on your hand. He's kind of wrapped around your hand. I don't know if that's well. You can see it here too.
Yeah.
Did he just molt? He's so shiny.
I think he may have shed recently. Yeah.
Okay.
But when they're about to shed, they get kind of a milky blue, and it's not quite shiny on the belly. And then up on the top, it gets sort of gray, kind of a charcoal gray.
Sure.
And then, so the difference between, most snakes look kind of dull. They look super blue when they're about to shed. But this is what he looks like normally on his belly, pretty much. I mean, it's the way the light catches it. It's black, but the way the light catches it is looking blue.
I mean, it's almost iridescent. Like, it's really pretty.
There's definitely some iridescence going on, for sure.
Oh, Jedi Monkey's here. Good job. What's up, Justin? So, this guy's, like, all black except for that chin.
Yeah.
Which I think is a cool marking.
Let me see if I can flip him around so you can see the chin. It's hard to do with the camera. There's a little bit.
It is.
Showing.
Let's see if we can give you a bigger spot. There we go.
Let me see if I can get him up there so you can see his chin properly. Can be tricky. There we go.
There we go. And it's bright white. It reminds me, like, I don't know if that's an adaptation to, like, fake out a predator or startle one or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure why the chin does that. It's a good question. It could be something like that, the contrast. And it varies a lot. And because this is a captive population, like we were talking about before the show started, in the captive populations, we're selectively breeding for more coverage and melanism, and it's typically just the chin or the area around the chin that has some white. But I've seen some even in captivity, but especially in the wild where maybe their whole head is just normal coloration, and then some patches around near their head. It tends to be concentrated near the head, and the chin is the most persistent white. But different ones look a little bit different. I have one that has a couple of flecks, like freckles of white along here on the side. And this is one of the darker ones that I have, but all of mine are really dark, darker than most. But there's some variation in that in the wild and stuff.
I mean, they're just pretty. Like, that's really just great. So now you were saying that these are pretty much the same species, or they are the same species as probably what I have, my eastern garter snake.
It's very probable. If you have eastern garters,
common.
which do exist in Illinois, then it's the same species. This is just a variant that in the northern parts of their range, the melanism is more common because it's a selective advantage up in places like Minnesota and southern Canada, where collecting as much of the rays of the sun as possible is beneficial. And so they occur in a higher incidence there, and people have seen that in those populations and collected them to selectively breed them, just like they've done with other variants. Like there's the Quebec flame, which has a lot of red coloration, which has been selectively bred for.
Okay.
And we have those in captive care and so on. There's some of the blues, like the Florida blues and things like that, where they take a variant of a particular species, a locality, and then create a morph based on that, basically.
Wow. I'm going to pause you real quick. Aqua Garden Zen, it's their birthday.
Oh.
And they've been stirring substrate for their birthday. That's, hey, everybody celebrates different. That must mean like you're Portuguese, right? Is that a Portuguese thing? They stir substrate for their birthday? I don't know. I just picked a country and made it real weird. So
I was like, that's news to me. I did not know that.
Yeah, I didn't either. So nobody did. I just made that up. So it'd be really funny if Aqua Garden Zen was from Portugal. That'd be really, really funny. So even if you're not, you could tell us you are, and it'll make my day. So
well, happy birthday, Aqua Garden Zen.
Yeah. Awesome. What isopods? What's your favorite isopod, Aqua Garden Zen? Frank's is whatever Wally has on the screen. No. Frank's is Hoff's. I think Frank chose Hoff's as the king this time. I believe. I just saw a post. Wally had a post up. What's your king isopod, real quick, Russ?
Mine?
Yeah.
I'm going to say Armadillidium gestroi.
That was on my list. I picked, obviously, because of Gordon, I picked Armadillo officinalis.
Yeah.
Still my favorite, even though I've never seen one's face, because they just roll up the second I open the ball. And they don't come out for like 10 minutes. That's how I know. I had some Fronta rostra get in there with them, and I couldn't tell them apart really until I started to pull the ones that would ball and then unball right away. I was like, okay, clearly you're not good for this. Yeah. So,
yeah, that's a good way to tell them apart, yeah.
Oh, Birthday Boy says Destroyer is favorite.
Yeah, there you go.
Very nice.
It's hard to argue with such a cool isopod.
They're such a cool tanky, and now there's different morphs, and it's just cool. I need to get my hands on some of those.
I've got a couple. Just the wild types, and I've got the zingers.
Okay. Cool. Oh, Aqua Garden said he got his destroy, or they got their destroy from you.
That's super cool.
Very cool. We're bringing it full circle.
Yeah.
So, and while we're off topic, tonight I'm drinking Liberty Chill Mountain Dew. It is 50 flavors in one bottle, and it is super sweaty. I'm sweating so let's get at the test. We're going to give it the sniff test here and try to guess. I wish you had one. Oh. It smells like kind of like blue raspberry, kind of like one of those syrups.
Yeah.
So that's going to be one of the flavors. Syrup? Yeah, I don't. Yes, it smells just like snow cone syrup.
Whoa.
No, I'm kidding. I didn't do that. Did he try to get you?
He just licked my face. He didn't try to bite me.
It's because you had worms for dinner. So the last time we had you on, they were eating worms in a cup. This is a cool part of owning a smallish snake.
Yeah. We did that for Podsgiving, didn't we?
We did. And the one not knowing how to find the worm, trying to strike under the plate, was the best part of that episode. And he just kept doing it. I don't think he ever got a chunk. So I didn't know you chopped the worms up for them. That seemed like a lot to me. But
oh, yeah. Well, when you have baby ones, if we get to talking about how it works with raising baby garter snakes, we'll definitely get into that.
We are. So then while we're on this specific guy, so how old is this guy? He's not full grown, obviously.
Let's see. Well, he'll keep growing. Garter snakes, like many snakes, will keep growing throughout their lives, but he's done most of his growing.
Really?
Already, because male garter snakes typically stay much smaller than females.
Yeah.
And this species, eastern garter snakes, they're moderately sized garter snakes. There are garter snake species that get much bigger.
Yeah.
But typically there's a lot of sexual dimorphism. This definitely he's breeding size.
Okay.
I have a female melanistic who's much bigger than he is.
Now these guys do the breeding balls kind of too, don't they? Where it's just a pile.
They often do communal breeding, yeah. And it's good to actually, if you're breeding them, it's good to have more than one male because they kind of spur each other on, like competition wise.
Okay.
And so it's not necessary. I mean, you can breed them without having more than one male, but having a male to female ratio is often beneficial for breeding them. So I have 3 males and 1 female for this.
That's kind of the opposite for a lot of species. That's funny.
Yeah, it is. But so I have 3 males and 1 female of these, and then I've got a couple other types of garter snakes, but they do vary widely in size. Some of the larger garter snakes are getting right around 5 feet, like some of the ones from Mexico, like the Lake Chapala, Lake Cristeo ones. And then there's the giant garter snake in California. And then many are a lot smaller. Like the red-sided I have, the biggest one is a big red-sided female, and she is big for her species. She is almost 4 feet long.
Let's see. Is this her?
That is one of her daughters.
This is one of her daughters. Because this looks small.
Yeah.
The biggest one I have here is probably in my yard is probably 3 feet. We have one that's 3 feet, and then we have the second largest is Stumpy, who I clipped part of his tail a couple years ago. I felt awful.
Oh, was it a lawn mowing accident?
Yeah. I chopped one the first mow of the year ever here, and I got him real. He didn't make it, and I felt awful. But we haven't had. Now I mow super slow. And because it's that thing, I leave my grass a little long for the snakes.
Yeah.
And I have a little safe zone for them now in my garden. So it's still growing back in. It's mostly just dirt, but I took some paver blocks and built this like hutch in a corner. And then they have a water thing outside, and there's all kinds of plants there now. And next year it'll be perfect for them.
Garter sanctuary. That's awesome.
Yeah, or toads or whatever moves in. I haven't seen a snake in there yet, but hey, Moon. Let's see, which way are we going? Oh, this is the generic. If you guys haven't seen the generic Star Wars, this is a wax museum display that I'm pretty sure made Russ spit out some skim milk. I don't know.
Something like that. Yeah.
It had to be something wholesome. Let's see. Let's go the other way. Here's another red. This is red-sided, right? Yeah,
and that's the same picture, same female that this is our holdback from 2022, I think. And you see she's got some nice red.
She looks great. Like these are I never knew until I met you that there were different species and like variations in garter snakes.
Oh yeah, there are so many.
Yeah, I would have thought this was just a different snake because this is her enclosure, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. So we got
that's her probable father. I mean, there are 2 males that could have sired her, but I suspect this one did.
The black on this one is just the contrast is so cool.
Yeah. I love it. It's like someone has compared it to lava with the black and the red.
Okay.
And I kind of like that. You can see he has some really nice contrast between the black and the red. He doesn't have quite as much red coverage as she does.
Okay.
But you can see.
Yeah.
And it looks really nice. And he, of course, is super friendly. I think he's sitting on my wife's hand right there in that shot. Yeah, that's my
If not, you have beautiful nails. Let me just say. Your manicure game is on point.
And yeah, he's unfortunately he's passed away now, but he was a great snake and super tame. That's one great thing about garters as pets. They can be very docile, especially if you work with them. Some species are more prone to be a little defensive and so on than others, but working with them, you can usually get them to tame down pretty well. Like this guy, of course, is tame as a kitten. Okay. Super friendly. All my my male melanistics are like that. I got the female just recently for breeding.
Okay. Sure.
And she was really kind of freaked out when we first got her, but she's calmed down quite a bit.
That's awesome. Laura, I plan to do an outside yard thing to show off like some of the work I've done for my yard to help the local populations. I didn't get as much done as I wanted to, but I got sidetracked with a couple projects. So I plan to film outside next week, weather permitting. So We'll shoot from my yard next week. I want to be as zen as possible. it's going to be. I'm not doing the episode for this, but it's probably going to be my most watched episode ever. Well, that's my forecast. But anyway, yeah, I love the fact that they can be so tame and so chill. Do they eat out of your hand? Are they like good enough for that? And they're not gonna they don't strike like crazy.
Well, it's like this. To explain it, I guess I should qualify it because I do hand feed them a lot, but I don't hold the food in my hand. I hold the snake in my hand and I use tongs to offer the food.
Okay.
Because they're not that great at aiming, and I do get tagged once in a while, not out of aggression ever.
Sure.
And none of my garters have really done that. Well, I have one that's young and still pretty defensive, and she'll sometimes kind of defensively strike. But as far as any of my tame ones, doing that, they don't do that. But they will miss the food sometimes.
Oh, sure.
Clamp onto my hand, and it's not that bad when the snake is small. With my big female, it can be a little rougher. Like a month or two ago, she was really hungry because she had just given birth, and they usually get really, really hungry right after they give birth.
Okay.
And so she was too excited, and I'd given her one mouth, and she had chomped it down, swallowed it, and then she came right back for the next one. I wasn't even ready yet, and grabbed onto my finger and wouldn't let go for a minute, and I had to get some hand sanitizer, something like that. And you put it up near their nose, and they'll usually let go.
Oh, like a smelling salt situation kind of a thing, like stars.
Yeah, and so that's what I use if they do that. So with garters, because they are communal snakes, like truly communal, it's good for them to live together, unlike mini snakes, which, at best, there are other communal snakes, but in general, snakes are not communal. They either tolerate each other when they live together, or they don't tolerate each other when they live together, right?
Sure.
So that in general, it's not a good idea. But with garters, it actually is a good idea to keep them together. But when you feed them, you need to put them in. You need to figure out some way of keeping them apart while you're feeding them, because they will fight over food. They will end up swallowing, opposite sides of the food and then swallowing the other snake, things like that.
Hey,
so
cool.
I often find that the best way for me to do that is to take one snake out and, like I said, hold it in one hand, offer the food in tongs in the other hand, give it to him, let him swallow it, and then let him go. And it depends on how many snakes are living together, individual food drive and so on. Sometimes I'll put them in a separate enclosure. Sometimes I'll just feed this one, set it down, pick up another one and feed it. And it also depends on the numbers, because if there are like 4 or 5 snakes in the same enclosure, if I feed one and let it go, 2 others might chase after it while I'm grabbing another one, and that's not good. So I have to keep all that in mind. Sometimes I get help. Sometimes I need help, and I'm just like, here, can you hold these 2 snakes while I feed these other 2?
They go after the one that smells like food because he just
or they see the food in its mouth.
Oh, okay.
And because they are very visual hunters, as opposed
they've got good eyes. Yeah,
they've got good eyes and good diurnal vision, and they will see each other. And most of the snakes seem to realize, even when at a very young age, when they're really little, they seem to be driven to see another snake with food in its mouth and chase after it. Like, I'll have what he's having, kind of thing, right? And so you have to keep that in mind. And often the snake that has the food seems to know, oh, I'm vulnerable right now, and they'll start darting around really fast and trying to find a hiding place. They'll periscope up, so their head's really high up above the ground, dart off with that food to try to get away from the others. But I've had situations where one will sneak up on them and grab the food, and they'll tug of war, and it's not pretty. So I have to make sure that doesn't happen. Try to avoid that.
I love when I see the little head peek up over my grass in the yard. They're just like whoop, and you're okay. I'm gonna knock over there for a minute, give him a minute to hang out.
Yeah, I love the periscoping, and they do it in a captive situation. They'll do it, especially when they're hungry, but even when they're not, just when they see you, they're like curious, like, what are you doing? And they'll pop their head up, and they'll want to come out of the enclosure, so they'll come do that and then push up against the side of the enclosure, and they will, even when they're not hungry, which is pretty cool, because when they're hungry, of course, they want you to open the door. Yeah. But many times when they're not hungry, they just want to come out and say hi, climb on you, whatever. So I'll open the door, and if they're not hungry, I can offer them the food, and they will refuse it, but they'll just climb up onto my arm and up around my neck and whatever. They just want to hang out.
I think it's great. I think that they, a lot of the animals that I took for granted, like they crave the enrichment that gives them. Like I didn't know, I have this blue tongue is my only reptile right now, and she is so animated to get out and interact. She doesn't like to be held as much, so I don't bother her that much with it. But the fact that she wants that enrichment, that engagement, like if she's at all interested, she'd be right here, right now. She just comes up and starts to rustle the leaves here. She knows that gets my attention, and I turn around and we hang out together. So
it's really interesting that they do that kind of thing. Even solitary, like a blue-tongued skink, pretty solitary. They'll beat each other up.
Super solitary.
Yeah. And if even they will want to interact with humans because of the enrichment factor, like you're saying. An interesting thing about garters, because they are communal, I wonder about their ability to, they form bonds with each other, and they've done research on that you can separate garter snakes that have lived together for a while and then reintroduce them, and they will be buddies again. And many times, if you, in lab studies, they've put garters together, allow them to form bonds, and then separated them into new groups, and they'll form new associations. But then when you put them back with some of their old friends, they will incorporate all of them into their friend group.
Wow.
And stay together preferentially and things like that. So super cool. And it also makes me wonder if they are more capable of forming some sort of attachment to humans. They certainly seem like it. Like my wife noticed before I did, but we would handle the snakes, and I would pass the snakes around to different people in the family so they can get socialized and so on. And she would say, every time you hand off the snakes to someone, they're always looking back at you like they want to go back to you. And so, it seems like they do form pair bonds, and I do want them to be socialized and be comfortable with other people. And they are. I bring snakes to presentations, with kids and so on, so that they get a positive experience with snakes. And they're super great for ambassador animals because they're not as intimidating as somebody brings in 12-foot python or something. That's cool. I'm not saying anything wrong about that. People should absolutely bring 12-foot pythons to these things and allow kids to interact with them appropriately. But just because garters are so small, they're less intimidating, I think.
Very much so. Yeah, my daughter, I've taken her to a bunch of educational shows, and everyone out here that has reptiles has a massive, 10+ foot snake. That is cool, but I want her to have I want her to be able to see something she can hold. And like the next biggest thing or the next smallest thing they have is like a ball python. Yeah, that's the smallest thing they have, and they're still kind of big. Right. So I don't know that she even knows. She knows we have the garter snakes, but we haven't held one together because the wild ones are flighty at best.
Right.
And we have one that definitely tried to strike me for no reason whatsoever. So very aggressive for a garter snake. I was blown away.
Yeah, some of them just naturally are like that, and some of them learn not to be like that. But like the really brightly colored one, the baby, the holdback that I showed you, she's my most offensive snake for whatever reason. Wow. She will flatten her head out, and she will strike even when even at her dinner. She acts like she's freaking out about her dinner, which is weird. And I'm sure she'll, as she gets older and stuff, grows out of it a little bit, she'll calm down. Because most of the adults that I've worked with, they're like this, super friendly, super chill. They don't get stressed out. They're happy I hand them off to anybody, and they're happy and relaxed. But
I love how they do that thing with the end of their tail and just like anchor.
Yeah.
No matter what, it's just cool.
Yeah. Some garter snakes actually are weak constrictors, which is pretty cool.
Oh. This is kind of like the ones I have, I think. Maybe not. No, there's red here.
Yeah, there's some red on that one. I think that is when we found the one I showed you before, the one with a lot of red. I think this was her when we just first found her. Because that's my wife's hand again. Yeah, that's her when we first found her. You can see that over time they develop a lot more color.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that kind of makes sense. You don't want to be, if you're not venomous or not mimicking venomous, you don't want to be so brightly colored.
Yeah.
Area.
Yeah. And an interesting thing about some of the garters, at least, that have some of the brighter colors, like the California red-sided, which is the same species as this red-sided, but a different subspecies, a different range. They, in some parts of their range, at least, they eat like poisonous newts, and so they they sequester those toxins, and it's actually, the color is validly aposematic, meaning if you eat me, you'll have some problems.
I was under the impression that they have a toxin, like garter snakes in general are toxic.
Yeah, garters in general are rear-fanged venomous, and the venom is very mild to humans.
Oh, okay.
It can be
I
a
meant
lot.
if you ate them. Like if
Oh,
you ate them, you would get sick.
yes. That is true of some garters, at least in populations where they're eating toxic amphibians, like the
Okay, okay. Like the
it
news.
it may or may not be true of others, but they do suspect at least that the ones that are eating these large numbers of toxic newts and so on are sequestering that toxin and using it as a survival, a defense mechanism, basically.
Okay. So many animals do that. It's crazy.
Yeah. This here is a photo of my big female, the one who's about 4 feet long, who
This is
had.
the one. This is the cover for your book. I just want you to know when you write your book about garter snakes,
Should
this
use
is the
that.
cover. You have like garter life right here or something. I don't even know. And then under here with Russ Wilson. And it's kind of like a watercolor painting background right here.
Oh, I like it.
Just
Yeah,
right here.
maybe for a title, I could call it My Stars and Garters.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. And then on the cover, inside cover, you have like star chart, like constellations. We're gonna collaborate. I'm gonna get you famous.
Yeah.
More famous. What was the question here? How arboreal are garters? Aunt Sandy wants to know.
It seems to depend somewhat on the species. Most garters will climb decently. They're not like a true arboreal snake, like a green tree python or something like that.
Yeah.
Not nearly to that extent, but they are able climbers, like many snakes. I put branches in my garter snakes enclosures, and they will use them. And even the new babies will climb right up onto the branches and whatnot. The adults enjoy climbing up. If you have perches that are higher up in the enclosure, like flat perch areas, the garters will definitely use them. Preferentially, often they like to be up high if you have an opportunity for them. The ledges that some of the enclosures have, the backgrounds with the ledges, or you can get the magnetic ledges, or you can get the hammocks. Garters love that kind of stuff.
There you go, guys.
So
get on the list. Get some garters.
Might be the way to do it. Might be the way to call them semi-arboreal.
Well, I think I told you the story I used to have bushes in the front yard where the garter sanctuary is now.
Oh yeah.
So I was walking out in the morning, and my wife walked up behind me and was like, "Oh, there's a snake in the bush." And I started to look, and then we both were like, "Oh wait, there's 2, there's 3." We counted 7, and I reached in. I asked my daughter, "Do you want to pet one?" And she said, she was like 2.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just reached in. There was like it was like 2-footer,
mm-hmm.
And just plucked him off the bush. It was kind of early morning, so I'm guessing they were still cold a little bit. The rest took off, and he just let us hold him and pet him for like a half an hour.
Oh,
and then
awesome.
I put him back, and the neighbor kid ran over and was like, "What are you doing?" And I had put him back in the bush, and he just was like, "Can I see it? Can I pet him too?" And I said, "Sure." And I just grabbed the snake again. Like he didn't even move. So then I told my wife, I'm like, I think I have to keep this snake. She vetoed that real quick. But I said, he chose me, wife. I didn't even choose this. So
yeah, I've heard stories like that where people will have a garter just come right up to them and super friendly right out of the wild. Not all of them are like that, but apparently some of them are.
Crazy. It gets different attitudes here. Here we got a new viewer here. I don't think I've ever
Eternal
seen
Ruler. Awesome.
Do you know this person?
No. But it's
like a Cthulhu face on there.
Yeah.
Dope. All right. So we talked about breeding. What do you get in a clutch size from these guys? Because they're live bearers, which is cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It varies widely. See, this is Ruby, the female. I think that's when she was gravid, and
She's
2 males. We have Houdini and Rufus sitting, basking along with her. Like I said, they're very, very communal. So they're
just hanging out. This isn't breeding. This is just them hanging out.
This is just hanging out and basking. Yeah.
Awesome.
So as far as clutch size, just Ruby's a little atypical. Okay. She's kind of big. She's big. Cause like I said, she's close to 4 feet long. She might actually be 4 feet long now. Okay. She had last clutch was 46 live
46
live babies, and there were 3 stillborns.
Holy cow! That's a solid number of babies there. That's 46.
46, and that's her record so far.
Okay.
The first year, I think she had 21 live babies and 1 stillborn, and then she had around 28, 29 the couple years after that. Wow. So yeah, that's not even a record though. The record I've heard is right around 100.
100 in a clutch.
Yeah. And it does depend on garter species and size and lots of different factors. But usually the larger the female is, the more babies they'll have. Some species tend to have fewer but larger babies than others. And the red-sided that I have, like the ones pictured, will have they will have smaller babies, but more of them. So the babies are tiny when they're first born. They're like as long as a mechanical pencil, not even a normal like pencil, but as long as a mechanical pencil.
Oh, wow.
And thinner. They're tiny.
Absolutely. What are they eating at that point? Like,
so
earwigs?
They actually can't digest chitin.
Oh, wow, okay.
So insects are not really appropriate food for them. In the wild, they're probably eating, depending on where they are living in the different species and so on, right? Many of them live very close to water and will be eating things like tadpoles and very small fish.
Slugs.
That size. They definitely like slugs a lot and earthworms. So earthworms, slugs, very small amphibians, and very small fish when they're really small. And then as they get older, they become a little bit more eclectic in their taste. They will eat a lot more different things. They will eat rodents. They can eat small birds. They can eat all kinds of things. Like Ruby here, she can down 3 adult mice in one go and still be hungry. And of course I give her frozen thawed, but I've given her quail chicks, mice. She'll take like silverside fish. She'll take earthworms. She likes reptilinks.
So just about anything. This one.
It's good to give them variety.
Whatever. Sure.
Yeah. Chicken hearts. She loves chicken hearts.
Who doesn't?
And so they'll eat a lot of different things, and it's good to give them some variety because they are definitely going to be eating a few different things in the wild in most cases. There are certain garters that are more, focused on specific dietary items. Some are more aquatic and are eating more fish and whatnot. But in general, certain populations will eat more frogs. In Utah here, we have a species, the wandering garter, which they'll eat a lot of different things, lizards, mice, worms, slugs, all that stuff. But then we have another species, the valley garter, which is basically dependent on frogs. If there aren't frogs around, you won't find valley garters.
Wow.
So it just depends very much on the species.
So and keep our frogs around.
Yeah. And unfortunately in Utah these days, bullfrogs, which are not native here, are quite invasive. And when you find a lot of bullfrogs, you usually don't find that many garters because the bullfrogs get big enough to start eating the garters.
That's true. Bullfrogs will eat literally anything. So they're almost like an apex predator.
Yeah.
Aunt Sandy's not wrong. Like that's more than, I don't know how Bingo, if she's adult yet or not, but she doesn't eat that much. I don't know if she would eat 3 adult mice. That's pretty crazy. She eats a lot more now.
Yeah, I imagine. But she eats a lot. Ruby eats a lot, and that's when she's in peak eating times in the year.
Yeah,
she'll do that twice a week, 3 times a week even. Which for most snakes you don't want to feed them that often, but garters have a high metabolism.
Okay,
so you're feeding them more often than you would most snakes.
I mean, I trust your habits more than most. So Frank was asking if that was 24 females and 21 males.
It was something like that. I think that was it. I think Frank was there in the stream or the video when we counted them.
Oh, that's funny. So you can tell pretty early, male, female?
You can, yes. You have to be accurate, you have to pop them, is the term used, which sounds horrible, but
sounds horrible.
Basically, it's just putting a little bit of pressure on the hemipene area for the males that they will avert, and you can see the hemipenes kind of pop out a little bit. And if they're females, it doesn't happen. So it's really hard to get a false male. Like if you see the hemipenes, you know it's a male.
Sure.
If you don't see hemipenes, you potentially could be doing it wrong.
Now, in my research on peens in general, do they have the 2-prong?
They do.
Nice. Most snakes, right?
Yeah. They, as far as I know, all snakes have the hemipene arrangement, the most common arrangement with reptiles.
The fork. So it's not just the tongue.
Yeah, with lizards and snakes, you have the hemipenes. Yeah.
Let's see, I learned way more about that than I wanted to in that research. About in general, just so many different. The Lord works in mysterious ways. And
Very
so
true.
do Peens, apparently. So,
yep. Oh, Tennyson's here. Awesome.
Yeah, Tennyson showed up. He's here a lot, actually.
Yeah.
I want to know what your search history looks like. No, you don't. No, you don't, Tennyson.
Yeah.
It is wild. Every day, it's wild. I look up the weirdest stuff every day. I'll get on a tirade and just be like, I got to search this. And, or is that real? And it's insane. I'm definitely on a few FBI watch lists, like for sure.
Check out what he's doing. He's doing the pretzel move here. Oh, now he's not because I moved. But Tennyson and his brother and I all went bugging. Like a week or two ago. I don't remember the exact how many days it was because he lives like an hour away from me.
I heard he's close. I saw that he was in Utah and was wondering if he was close.
And so we went bugging. The problem was we had this day set up for several weeks in advance, and we were going to go do this bugging. And then all of a sudden the weather went to garbage, and it was like 47 degrees or wwhatever. I don't remember exactly. It was cold, ideal. And we had brought bait and everything to attract different beetles and stuff. And I chose a canyon where I've seen lots of cool stuff.
Sure.
We did end up seeing a few cool things, but everything was cool because it was like 47 degrees or whatever it was.
It was physically cool.
So we didn't see near as much as we would have otherwise, which was kind of sad. But.
Is his brother as smart as he is or no?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we had some great bug conversations. Raceland, Tennyson, and I were all chatting about bugs and reptiles and different things. It was fun.
I would have been out of my depth. Yeah, I would have enjoyed it, but I would have been like, yeah, I'd just been listening the whole time or interrupting to try to sound smart about something else. Okay, so you got 49 or whatever is like the biggest clutch you got out of Ruby.
Yeah, 49 including the stillborns, the few stillborns, yeah.
Now with the breeding as well, here's a young guy or couple of youngins.
This is all three of my original trio. So that includes Ruby, the big female, and her two mates right there when they were about a month old.
Oh my gosh. They're both smart asses.
Oh, that's their dad. That's their dad.
I got the whole family here. All right.
Billy's here. Awesome.
I'll watch my mouth so you don't think that I'm a bad influence on your son. I named his upcoming project. I forgot I did that, but I did that. So when you make all the sales on that, you're welcome. I'm the marketing guy. He's isolated a very golden Armadillidium vulgare, and it's Kingsley Gold is what we're calling.
Yeah, we were chatting about that actually recently. Yeah. They look super awesome.
So here's the best part about it that I didn't realize till yesterday. I think I was talking about it. So if you sell a 12 count, you list it as a 12 CT, which could be carat as well. If they're gold.
Yeah, you should sell them only 24. So it's the minimum, 24.
Right, or 14. You could have 14s or 24s. Yeah, you're good to go. So, I basically demanded a 12 count. So I feel like that's fair. They look amazing, too.
They do.
Anyway, we're way off track. So, but that's okay. We're about the community, right?
Yeah.
So with breeding, obviously cohabbing with these guys is fantastic. You probably don't want to cohab them with any other creatures. They're predators.
Right. I keep them with isopods, but not a whole lot of other things.
Now, is it true, like, these guys can be, they're active, but they can be sedentary for a little while. So, like, is it a true threat that the isopods are going to chew on them or affect them in any way?
I've never had issues with it, and I've housed them with isopods. I think, you could set up an extreme situation probably.
Okay.
Where it might be an issue, but I've never had issues with it and done it for years. I think with these, you'd really have to try, like, raise, 700 Porcelio laevis and then not feed them for 3 weeks and then throw your garters in there or something, something like that.
Yeah, something to have an issue. And if still couldn't really kill them, but
I don't think they would. They'd probably try to chew on them if you did that, but just make sure you feed the isopods well. They never run out of plenty of leaf litter and that kind of thing, and should be okay. Especially, in a setup where they're leaf litter, they're eating leaf litter and skin shed and that kind of stuff and some waste. And the population of isopods is going to regulate somewhat if you're not feeding them a ton of extra food on top of that.
Yeah. There's no number of isopods that could handle the dumps that Ruby's taken. There's no number of isopods.
Yeah, it is important to remove some of that, but then, if you miss a little bit here and there, and they do take care of a decent amount of it, and it depends on which isopods you're using too. But you can't just rely on the isopods to clean up everything.
I have a lot of Vulgarian with Bingo. She got what was left of my orange vigor and my was high yellow something, Armadillo Vulgari, or high orange Dalmatian. They weren't.
Oh,
they weren't magic potions.
They're the orange Dalmatian, which are descended from magic potions and orange vigor, orange Dalmatian.
Oh, good. Then if they're with orange vigor, then that's good. Then they'll have a good life. But now it started with like 24 of each. Now there's hundreds.
And she's not munching them.
She is, but I don't think she pays. She's pretty big now. She's got to be 18 inches now.
Okay, so she's
something like that.
Putting on some size, yeah.
Yeah, she's longer than my forearm. So, yeah.
And so I don't think. Yeah, I think when you have healthy animals, like Frank is saying, or Aunt Sandy's saying, healthy animal that is not. It's active, and you're not doing extreme things with the isopods. I don't think it's a problem with these snakes. I mean, that's not to say that's true of every animal, because there's some animals that are more sensitive, like a molting invertebrate, for example, can be quite vulnerable. But
sure, I would never keep them with my tarantula. But
exactly. Yeah. But it's very different when you have like a healthy snake and stuff. And Aunt Sandy brings up an interesting point: brumating. We haven't talked about that because it's relating to what you were asking about with breeding, like what you need to do to breed them. We started getting into that.
I was just going to ask you, like, is it seasonal? Is it whenever? Or no, you're talking about brumating, because I know you brumate these guys. We talked about it last time.
Yeah. Garter snakes are funny in that they don't necessarily need to go through brumation to breed, but it does optimize breeding. It tends to make sure that the male and female are on the same page, so to speak, and can help improve fertility. So to give you best chances that you're going to succeed at breeding, it's good to brumate them. But just to give you a couple of anecdotes that illustrate you don't necessarily have to do it. A friend of mine who lived in Northern California at the time, it's been a few years, but he sent me a message, says, my cat caught this garter snake, doesn't seem to have hurt it, and the kids want to keep it. What can we do? And so I told him how to set up an enclosure for it. And then a month or two later, he's like, happened again. We got another one. Can they live together? And I said, yes, they can live together. So we put them together. And the next year or so, they're like, we woke up this morning, there's 6 little garter snakes in there.
Nice.
So they didn't brumate or anything.
I had them and they bred.
Okay. Yeah, and just had them in the bread. So that can happen and is fairly likely to happen even if you don't brumate. I had another person who wrote me and said that their heat lamps went out when they were like gone for a weekend.
Okay.
And they came back and their garters were mating and they ended up producing babies just because that slight cooling period when the lights were out for a weekend.
So they mate when it's cool. They like to mate when they cool off.
Well, that cooling sends them into kind of that cycle. And so what I do for brumation, I put them in the garage, usually right about the beginning of December when it's, consistently cold enough to do so.
Sure.
And I put them, my garage can freeze. And so I put a heat mat in there, but I put it on a low end thermostat. So I set the thermostat between like 45 and 50 degrees. Okay. For this heater, and then they're really well insulated. I put them inside a gasket bin that's well ventilated, put leaf litter and everything inside that, and then under it so that they're insulated from the cold, and then put that inside a larger bin and put blankets on top of the inside of that larger bin. And so they're really well insulated, but they still get some ventilation. And if it ever starts getting too cold, their heater kicks in. And so they're staying around 45, 50 degrees. And I do that for about 2-3 months. And then when I take them out, they are cold. I should back up. I sometimes forget to mention this. Before I put them into the brumation chamber, it's extremely important to make sure that their guts are clean. You don't want to put them in there with food in their gut. So I give them about 3 weeks to a month where they don't eat anything, and so that they can clear out anything they might have in their digestive system so it doesn't rot when it's sitting there.
Okay.
After they've not eaten anything for 2 or 3 weeks, I turn down the temperature for a week or so, just turn off their basking lights for a week or so. That kind of gives them the signal, okay, we're really starting now with the brumation. And then a week or so later, I put them in the brumation bin outside. And then right around the end of, beginning of February or March, I will take them out. And then I don't feed them for a week, but I let them warm up. And then, and it takes them about a week to want to eat. So warm up.
Okay.
And then I start feeding them. And usually by that time, they're like mating like crazy. They're primed and ready to go. And they will mate repeatedly, lots of courtship, lots of mating for a while, a month or so. And then they'll usually, it depends, once the female is actually gravid, they stop. The pheromones change or whatever, and the male's like, okay, you're fertilized. I don't need to do that anymore. And then about, in my case, and it depends on the individual snake, the temperatures and all that stuff, about 2.5 months, and they give birth.
That's fantastic. That's really quick, actually. Wow. All right, so there's that. So you're not pounding them full of food beforehand. You're getting them fed once they're gravid, basically.
Yeah. Well, once that first week passes, they start getting really hungry. It's usually like they don't want to eat anything for that first week after they wake up. And then all of a sudden, boom, they're like super hungry and want to eat. So then I start really feeding them full of food, especially the female, because she has an outrageous appetite when she is gravid. And then she has an outrageous appetite. Well, the first part of being gravid, she has a ravenous appetite. Near the end, she starts getting like so huge, she doesn't really want to eat as much.
Okay.
Typically, mine will go about 2 weeks before she gives birth. She'll stop eating for a week or so, a week and a half, and then she'll take a meal usually, and then she'll give birth a day or two later.
Smart.
But that varies per garter, of course, individuals and so on. But yeah, so I'm feeding them really heavily during that. The males usually don't want to eat during mating as much as they would normally. Once they're done with the mating, they pick up on appetite. And then in the fall, around September or so, even sometimes August, their appetites go down again. They start slowing down.
Wild. Tennyson asks if you ever just fed minnows, like if you could primarily feed minnows.
Well, you have to be careful what you feed. Some minnows have they're high in the enzyme thiaminase, which destroys thiamine, which is a B vitamin. And if you feed those frequently enough, your snakes will get neurological issues because of the thiamine deficiency, and they will eventually die from it if it's not addressed.
Wow.
So a diet of just minnows, if they are one of the minnows that contains thiaminase, and the true minnows from the Cyprinidae family often do contain thiaminase. So you can use those kinds of foods as a feeder, sporadically. If you did it like once a month or once every 2 months or something, it wouldn't be a problem. It would be a good dietary addition, but not as a steady diet, and not even as a frequent dietary item, because it will be enough to destroy any. If you feed them with earthworms, for example, which don't have thiaminase in them, they'll destroy whatever thiamine was in the worm, for example.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So what you have to do is feed something without thiaminase in it. So I feed guppies. Guppies don't have any thiaminase in them. I feed silver sides, the kind you can buy at like Petco or PetSmart. They have a thiaminase-free frozen one that you can use. And I rarely feed live foods, but one of the live foods I will feed is the guppies, or endlers is what I use, because that's what I have. I have a tank full of hundreds of endlers, and I will take out those and use those. They're great to get the babies starting to eat. They're great treats for the adults. If you just fill their water dish or a dish with a little bit of water in it, not a lot, and just put a bunch of endlers in there, the adults, the babies, whatever, they'll go crazy fishing for those. And it's a healthy food item. They don't contain the thiaminase. So
and that's great enrichment too. That's
right. And they really seem to enjoy it. They get into it. And I'll also feed earthworms live to snakes that are big enough to take them. If they're not big enough, I have to cut them up.
Do you use like any other worms, like red wigglers or?
Red wigglers are not a good option for garters because they have a toxin that makes garters throw up when they eat them.
Oh, not good.
And can potentially poison them. So yeah, red wigglers are a no-no for garters. They work for some other creatures just fine, but not.
They definitely work for newts.
Yeah, they work for newts. They work for axolotls.
Love them.
Axolotls, I fed them to some kinds of fish that like them and whatnot, but definitely not garters. For some reason, it makes them really sick. And so I use night crawlers.
Okay.
And when the babies, you were asking about feeding the babies earlier, I mince. This is not fun, but this is what I do. typically for the first few meals, and I wait a week or so before the garters really start eating after they're born. I mince earthworms. I have the little herb scissors that have several blades.
Yes,
One
I
pair
know
of scissors,
exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
blades. And I learned that from several other people who keep garters do that. So I didn't come up with it, but you get an earthworm and you mince it up like that. It's good to put it under kind of hot water first because it sort of stuns the worm. So hopefully it's not suffering as much. And then you just chop it up really quickly. And then I will feed that mixed with a pinky. So I like do 2 worms to 1 pinky ratio about.
Okay.
And feed that to the babies. They'll usually take that as their first meal.
So you mince a pinky and a worm.
Yeah, a pinky and 2 worms-ish. Okay. And then if they do that, then they've taken pinky once already, but it tastes mostly like worm. And then over time, I increase the ratio of pinky to worm until there's more pinky than worm, and then I can just quit using the worm and just use minced pinkies. And then they're just eating pinkies. And so when I ship them to somebody, they can give them pinky pieces. They don't have to mince it because I'm dealing with quantities of snakes. So it's, it makes sense to mince. But for them, they could just slice the pinky up when it's frozen and then just give them the pinky pieces and they'll be fine.
Yeah, that's too gross for me. I'm out.
It's gross. It's not fun.
Hey, Andrew. Yeah, that's part of the hobby that's probably why I never got into snakes.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like Bingo, she's big enough, she eats whatever, basically whole or chopped. I've never given her any live or like even frozen mice. I probably should offer a frozen mouse here now. But I just never got into that. I don't know. That's not my thing. And I think there's other I can do other options with a lizard, right? With the skink.
Yeah.
Unfortunately with the snakes, like at least these guys don't necessarily have to take live. Like they don't
have to. No, they don't have to. They really don't care. They like the reptilinks. They love reptilinks. And I never feed frozen rodents to them. You know, the rodents are always frozen thawed.
Yeah.
I meant to say I never feed them live rodents. Sorry, I think I said I don't feed them frozen. And I don't feed them while they're actually still frozen, but frozen thawed is what I feed. It would be a really bad idea to feed them actual rodent sickles. But yeah, and the quail, whatever, they don't care that it's dead. It's tasty. They love it.
Oh, Rod Sprague is here. Sprague? Rod
And
Sprague.
like I said, the chicken hearts. The chicken hearts don't even look like they were ever alive, and they love those. Absolutely.
Weird. I wonder if they take carrion in the wild. Like,
I wouldn't be too surprised. I've seen videos of garter snakes going up to someone cleaning a fish, much bigger than the snake, and try to grab the fish or bits of the fish.
Now I need to set. They have a big water bowl for them out front, and I need to put handlers in there or something, or feeder guppies to see what happens.
Yeah, they'd probably get a kick out of that.
It'd be mean to do it now because it's so hot outside here. Probably hotter where you are, right? Utah's warmer.
This hasn't been a very warm summer, but we're in the 90s. Like,
yeah, that's a
it'll probably get warmer. It does get into like get to like 103, 105 or something sometimes, but it hasn't this year yet.
Not good.
Just in the 90s.
Let's see. What else have we got here? What did we not cover? What size for these 3?
Mm-hmm.
We got more snake pictures here. Is this gravid?
This is the video. No, this is just a male right after eating. So he looks a little pudgy because he just ate.
I can tell there's this little fold here, like this little crease. So meal.
Yeah, right in there.
Passing.
And I love this video because you can see the colors, and people think, they don't realize that garter snakes can be colored like this. And this isn't even a California red. This is a Montana red, like the ones I have.
But look how, so this is what I always underestimate the properties of camouflage. And so looking at it here, it's obvious, like this is snake, this is leaves. In the wild, this would be, unless he's on top of the leaves like this, it would be difficult to notice this animal.
Yeah. Yeah, there's some disruptive patterning on there. And yeah,
it kind of like it matches a little bit, like enough. This could be shadows and bright spots. It's just, I don't know. Like Bingo, I know she's in this enclosure, and it takes me, there's so much leaf litter and stuff in there. It takes me a minute to find her unless she's out, looking for me.
I think it's even more so when you're out in the sun with the dappled shade and so on. Like tigers just disappear.
Right.
And it's that kind of thing with a lot of these animals.
I can't believe that you would think tigers would stand out like crazy. And there's a video where a guy is walking. He's on an elephant, and the elephant's walking through tall grass, and all of a sudden this tiger just, you don't even know it's there. It just erupts up the front of the elephant, right up the base of the elephant, and it's like, where did that even come from?
Right.
Is this the one we were looking at? This is one in your hand?
This is, let's see, I think that's one of his brothers. Yeah, that looks like his brother. That's Cecil.
He looks like he's close to maybe shedding at this
point. Yeah, and that's the sort of the charcoal gray color I was telling you about. When they're about to shed, they get that sort of charcoal gray look to them instead of the richer black color.
These are very cool. Contact Ross Ruby had a lot of babies.
I do still have some left. Usually I don't by now, but I have like 4 males and maybe 8 females or something like that left. I shipped out a bunch of them today.
Wow, look at this guy. Yeah, you were saying you shipped a bunch of stuff. Is this the same one?
I think this is Grenda, the one I'm holding in my hand.
Grenda's a great name.
Yeah, it's from Gravity Falls, if you've ever seen that cartoon.
I have the book. I have we've watched. I haven't watched it enough because my daughter gets creeped out. But I love the triangle character.
Yes.
Like the Illuminati thing.
Yes. Bill Cipher, that's his name. So I have 2 characters named. I had 2, Mabel and Grenda, named from that show, and then Carlos and Cecil are from a podcast. And Mabel went to a new home, traded him for a female, and the female's name is Kiki. And she's like 3 times as wide as this guy and considerably longer.
And that's his new girlfriend.
Yep.
Somebody just made a boom boom.
We're really hoping for babies soon. I don't know if they're going to end up breeding this year. They might. Sometimes they'll produce clutches in the fall. Which is how my holdback was produced. She was a very small clutch of 1, weirdly. But that doesn't happen all that often, but it did apparently happen. So fall clutches are often, sometimes they can retain sperm.
Okay. So
and I don't think I gave her the opportunity to mate that year when she produced those. So that must have been retained sperm from the previous mating.
Like leftovers.
Yeah.
This is a great photo too. Holy cow.
This
is like, I feel like you let Tanner Stainbrook take this for you. And
this was a money shot. I was glad to get this one. And then of course I scrubbed out the background so you could see it better. But yeah, managed to get her with her tongue out, and you can see the color on her tongue and everything. That was fun. And that's Excellent. Ruby. That's the big female.
This is Ruby.
Yeah.
Clearly she's like your favorite. Is this the movement again?
She is one of my favorites for sure. She's a sweetheart, and she's huge and beautiful and friendly. I don't know. It's hard to pick a favorite, but she's up there for sure.
I can't get over these guys. I'm too excited. All right. Even though I don't want snakes. I've been told I can't have snakes. So, yeah. But I was told that I can't have a spider either. But my wife's going to be down here a lot more soon. So this area here is going to be her art station.
Oh, okay.
So she's going to be painting and drawing and whatever she wants to do right here. So what else did I have? What size of a setup are these 3 in? The last question. What size of a setup are these 3 in?
These guys or the Ruby?
The Ruby and her.
Okay. They're in 40-gallon breeder size.
That's not bad. That's not a huge size.
It's not super huge. And I would say that's the minimum for Ruby. I honestly would rather have her in something bigger. I want to get her in something bigger because she's a big snake for garters. For males, though, if you just have a couple of males, which you can do, they live fine if you just have a couple of males for company or a trio of males. I wouldn't hesitate to keep those in a 40-gallon breeder. If you can go bigger. They'll like it. Sure. They will use every inch of the space you can give them. Absolutely. So if you can give them more, give them more. But as far as Ruby, I would honestly want to put her in something twice as big. And so I'm hoping to get her a bigger enclosure.
Sounds good. Yeah, I always feel like bigger is better, but there's not always an option.
Right.
I know you want to do as good as you can for your animals, and there's not always, you can do fine for your animal. You don't have to go full stop. But that's better, obviously, if you can, do it.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I
know we're at your cutoff time, right?
Almost, yeah.
Okay.
We got like 5 minutes.
What else have you got? What did we miss?
Yeah. Did you have a list of stuff you wanted to talk to?
Well, we were all over the spot, so I wanted to let it go organically. I don't really have How long have you been keeping garter snakes? Since you were 6 or so?
Well, I did catch and keep the garter snakes as a kid temporarily. Not it didn't do a great job, at the time.
They don't do good in shoe boxes under your bed, so your mom doesn't find them.
Yeah. And I would put them like aquariums with fish tank lids on them and stuff. And
oh boy!
Get out. And I actually have a couple of funny occasions. When I was I must have been around 10. I had a garter snake, and it got out, of course, and ended up inside my Commodore 64 keyboard. So those of you who don't know what a Commodore 64 is, it dates me a bit. It's an old computer. And
one of the first home computers.
Yeah, one of the first home computers. And so I was around 10 years old. We had one, and we found it crawling out one of the ports on the back of the keyboard. It had apparently gone in there because it was warm. And then fast forward another 5 years or so, we had a dot matrix printer and found another garter snake resting in the dot matrix printer.
You'll have to YouTube. Look for that on YouTube and just turn the volume all the way up.
Yeah, you need to hear that.
And then Google modem sounds, dial-up modem. My phone used to do that. That was my ringtone. And
that's
people would turn and look because it would be cranked all the way up in the store. They'd turn and look, and I'd be like, dial up.
That's awesome. So, yeah, I did that when I was a kid. I didn't really start keeping, or besides that, keeping or breeding snakes until around 2018, I guess, somewhere around there.
Okay.
I got my trio about 2018, 2019, something like that. And so I've been breeding for 2 years. And I produced, I think, 4 clutches. So actually producing babies about 4 years.
Okay.
Or so. And I could be a little off. And then but you have to, it takes a while for them to grow up. Usually males aren't ready to breed until they're about a year old or so. Females about 2 years-ish.
Okay.
So it took a good 2 years before she was producing babies.
And that's smart. Keep them, you don't want to start them too early. And
right.
Does it stress them out a lot, or do they just have like basically the one clutch a year?
They can have a fall clutch sometimes.
Right, you're saying sure.
Can, but they don't always. And I've never had, even when I've kept them together, I've only had that one fall clutch, and it was very small. So it doesn't seem to stress the mother out too much. But I have separated them when I think they're likely to breed, so that they don't, so that she can get rest. And I'm actually thinking of retiring her as a breeder, because her daughter, that holdback I showed you, is getting up to breeding size. She will be breeding size next year. And Ruby, I think it took a lot out of her this time. So I'm not sure I want to do that. Just maybe retire her to pet status completely.
I mean, that's a lot of babies. That's an insane amount of babies for her. I mean, even if they were a little stunted, but to have only 3 stillborn or whatever is like, that's a huge amount.
And I honestly think very possibly that they were born alive, but she had kind of pushed herself under some hides and cork bark and stuff.
Yeah. And
I kind of think they were stuck in a place where I couldn't get to them, and they couldn't move a lot, and they weren't being stimulated to move, because as she was giving birth this last time, I was there for the birth, much of it.
Oh, wow.
I didn't actually see her extrude any of the babies because she was under stuff, but she would like stick her head out and her tail was over here, and I saw the contractions along her body.
Oh, cool.
But then I'd see a wet baby pop out, and then at one point I saw these 2 babies that were still in the sack that they're born in, not moving.
Yeah.
And they were not moving at all. And I was like, oh, I hope they're not stillborn. I went and touched them. And as I did, they started wiggling and zipped out of the sack, and they were fine. So if I had caught those other 3 in time, I might have been able to do the same thing. But they were totally buried under stuff. And so I didn't find them until I was emptying out the enclosure, because you can imagine finding babies in a 40-gallon enclosure that's bioactive with all these hides and leaves and everything.
Yeah.
You have to take stuff out and dump it in a different container, because you're picking up snakes without noticing in the leaf litter handfuls that you're putting somewhere. So
absolutely.
And so we didn't find all the snakes we found the last baby like a week later. Even taking all the stuff out, we found, I think, 44 of them the first day. We found another one the next day, and then we found another one a week later.
I forgot you had that snake out, and I saw him because your hand is off camera. So I just saw this like, and I'm looking at your glasses, like your glass holder thing behind your head.
Uh-huh.
Your glasses strap.
Oh, yeah.
It's like roughly the same size as the snake.
True.
Yep. It's perfect. It's perfect. Just get him to hold your glasses there.
Yeah.
I think we learned a lot today. I think everybody got their questions out.
Good.
I can't think of anything we missed. There we go.
Oh, there's
there
my
we go. See, my Bluey alarm went off, and I knew it was time. So if you haven't watched Bluey, you have kids. Watch a couple episodes of Bluey. I'll send you some links. And
absolutely, please do.
You have a daughter, right?
2. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so that's Bluey. Bluey and Bingo's 2 girls. So you're gonna watch the entire show. I'm telling you now. But
I've heard good things about it. I was talking to my sister and brother-in-law about it the other day.
It'll make you cry. Like,
yeah,
absolutely. So, but yeah. Anyway, we're talking about a show now, and we're trying to keep you here, Russ. I miss you, buddy. We found out that Russ is the second most joining us guest of the show in the last 3 years. Honestly, it's less appearances than I thought.
Well, there was the time I appeared on Joe's show for just a little time. Did you count that?
I didn't count that. So that you're tied with Wally. You're tied with Wally at 14. But Wally's he just was on, so he's not going to be on for a little while. Yeah. We'll have to do an early Podsgiving or something.
Yeah, we're neck and neck, and then we'll both be on, and we'll both be tied again. It'll be awesome.
See, we'll keep it. We'll just keep you coming on together. Well, thanks, Russ. I don't want to get Mrs. Russ upset. So have a great day. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me. As always, I always enjoy it, and I'll be happy to come back on again whenever you
I'll have my wife watch this. I'll edit out the chopped worms part, and then maybe we'll get one. So
there you go.
All right, brother. Thank you so much. We'll see you soon.
Thank you. See ya.
All right. That's the guy who came up with Chiclone. Okay. That's the guy. We all know Russ. I don't need to bring up Russ anymore. Guys, so next week, well, let's talk first. So to support the show, we have patreon.com. We're going to be doing, I need more time, but I need to work on this website. We have, patreon.com/isobuddies, something like that. You'll find it. Search isobuddies. I don't know. I should have the links. I should really do it. I don't promote it enough. We also have, what do we have? The t-shirts. You can get t-shirts and a hoodie and a jean jacket with the isobuddies logo. That logo right there, designed by one of the character designers for Archer, the cartoon Archer. You may have heard of it. It's only got like 8 seasons or something. She's pretty famous, kind of. She's awesome, Ruby, if you're watching this sometime. Ruby Sosa. What else do we have ways to support the show? I don't know. The 13th, I don't really have any other episodes planned except for next week. We're going to see if we can reach out to some more people. S&J Terrariums, a couple other folks. We'll see. If you have any ideas, let me know. If you want to throw something my way, let me know. I'd love to talk to whoever. You know me. We're going to be at NARBC. Oh, that'll be Wally. Wally and I are going to be at NARBC on the 13th and 14th in Schaumburg, Illinois. And we're going to be doing some filming, not live probably, because if I remember, the connection there because of all the activity on phones is pretty garbage. But maybe. We'll see. We're definitely going to record something and play it back. I'll have it back for you. We might both have something to show on our respective shows. But that'll be fun. So next week, I would like to do it from my backyard. So, because I've been working on it really hard and it's very cozy and I love it. If I can rig something up to my hammock, I'll do that. You might be able to see me fall out of my hammock. I've done it repeatedly. I'm not very good at it, but it's very relaxing. We are going to be having a serious conversation. So, and it's going to be, I don't want it to be, but it's probably going to be the most viewed episode ever. If you can be there, Tennyson actually helped to inspire this episode. As you know, we've been outing people or having beef aired on the show. And there's some people I've been watching for a while, keeping an eye on. And I wasn't happy before, but I'm not happy now. I think it's time to address some issues in the community because you guys, as you guys know, longtime viewers, the community is paramount to me. That's why I have the show. So like I've been involved in a lot of projects with a lot of people to help them design their own things and boost their business, boost their products. And I'd see nothing from it. I don't want anything from it. That's not the point. The point is to boost the community. Like if I think their product's going to help the community, I'm going to help them if I can develop a better product or critique a better product, maybe tweak it, maybe name something a Kingsley Gold. I like to help the community. It's not about getting anything out of it. It's not about that at all. I don't care. I don't need anything. My needs are taken care of. Okay. But I see people that are doing the opposite of that. Okay. We've mentioned the things that are being done before, but I don't think we've mentioned anyone by name. So we're going to be calling out a couple of people. And I'm gonna call out a couple of people that I'm friends with, actually. We'll see how that goes. So I'm either going to well, Tennis and I deserve a 12 count. Come on, buddy. I deserve a 12 carat. I really appreciate that. I'm honored. I am honored. I have a high yellow from somebody else, but they're not the same as yours. Anyway, yeah, so these people, I'm going to invite them to watch and participate from the comments section. And if I feel like it's necessary, I don't want to call people out without a chance to defend themselves or explain themselves. So we're going to do that. I know that's high drama, and that's not why I'm doing it. I want to address the problems. And if I can get them to explain it to me, or maybe they're not aware. Maybe they're not aware what they're doing is a problem. And maybe we can help fix it. So, if that works, that works. I think confrontation, when in a controlled environment, is very good and healthy. Yeah, is it Bill? Can I call you Bill? Yadisky? How do you say that? That is a mouthful. William Yadeski? I'm going to say Yadeski. I'm probably putting a wrong emphasis somewhere, but I'm pretty sure I'm close. I'm really good at last names. I have a gift. So we're going to confront these people, hopefully. Hopefully they come on. I don't want it to be like a coming at them situation. I want to work on these issues, and I want to address them. I want to air them out. That's the point of it, mostly. That's the point of doing these. Yadeski, I did it. That's the point of these episodes, is to fix it, okay? I think these issues are big enough that they need to be addressed. They're not little anymore. And by the community, I mean this specifically is the isopod community. We've already addressed some other things in like tarantula and some of the reptiles. We may do something in other communities later, but they're all tied to isopods. That's why we're iso buddies, right, guys? That's why we do what we do. We're bioactive, okay? Community bioactive. So anyway, I'm going to let them know. I don't want to say who it is yet. A couple people know. I don't want to say who it is yet because I don't want them to find out about it before I reach out to them. I don't want them to have any preconceptions that I'm coming after them, because I guess I am, but I'm not. That's not the point. The point is to fix this issue. Okay. So yeah, I hope that's okay with you guys. I hope that's okay. We're either going to lose all of our viewers. I'm going to get my first dislikes, my first legit dislikes. And I think it's going to be one of the most watched episodes. I'd like to keep it controlled. I'd like to keep it serious. So I'm going to be doing a lot of pre-gaming on this one. So if you want to get involved, if you want to hear about it, you can message me over on Facebook, Johannes Washington on ISO Buddies. Okay. If not, that's fine. But I'd recommend to watch this one. It should be a little feisty, should be at least entertaining. So it's just going to be me. And then I'm probably taking a week off and then doing NARBC. So over that weekend. So technically like 2 weeks off, but we'll see how it goes. Yeah, we'll talk to you guys later. Love your show. I'm going to need a refs. Well, we're going to have people in there, Bill. We're going to have people on the sidelines. I may invite the people or give them the opportunity to come on live and speak. We'll see. We'll see how crazy that gets. But there's only 3 of them. So I think it's possible we could do that. So anyway, have a good week, guys. And know that you're killing it. Whatever you're doing, you're crushing it. Okay.